Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jerry. I'm Principal Client Advisor here at Global Reviews, and for the next 20 minutes I'm going to take you through some of our recent findings from our fruition study. So you should all be able to see my screen. Okay. So I just want to kind of take you through a quick overview on fruition itself, just to provide some context for the following slides. Normally I would do this at the end, but I think it's kind of important as fruition is kind of our latest evolution in our product suite. And it'll give you some context. So in fruition, So in fruition, we have three main stages. We have discover, consider, and act. So the discover stage is really where we recruit in-market consumers in their own environment. So they're at home performing this research. They download an applet onto their machine, onto their device, either that laptop or mobile, depending on the study. And then we set them a series of tasks, and that is to go off and find a provider for whatever industry that study has been based on. So for example, health insurance for this example. So they go and explore their options on the web. We don't lead them in any way. It's an open format. And then once they've done their research, we ask them to shortlist their providers, and then we ask them from that shortlist to select which one would be their final preference. And at that point, we identify kind of why they shortlist brands, why they pick brands as a final preference, and why they don't pick brands as a final preference. And that difference between the shortlisting and the final preference is where we get our lost opportunity. So then we take that sample and we then split that sample, and we put them on to give them each a provider website to go onto to conduct the consider stage. They don't go onto the website that they're already a customer of, so that there's no bias there and there's no initial expectations being set. And then, so we normally have 50 on our client sites and 20 on our competitor sites. And then during that consider phase, we ask them to do a number of tasks. They start off quite broad, and then they get more and more specific as they go through. So those tasks look at kind of finding the range, getting a quote, matching to needs. Those tasks differ depending on the provider. So while that's happening, we're also conducting a best practice audit, and this is usually over 400 criteria, binary criteria, so yes, no options. And then we also do an expert review. So these three layers together kind of form a very robust methodology for us uncovering things that are going on with the website, and these are related back to what have come out of the discover phase. So when we start to identify the reasons for this lost opportunity, going onto the website helps us then kind of correlate those lost opportunity reasons and what's going on in terms of the experience. We also measure the propensity to abandon after each task. So if they experience issues, what would they do next? And then finally we go on to the act stage. So this is where we conduct an audit of the application forms, where they're actually going in and deciding they want to purchase with this provider. So that's a quick overview of fruition. So let's just kind of go through each of the stages of the discover stage. So what's kind of happening during the discover stage in health insurance is we've got four stages. We've got initial preference, visited, shortlisting, and final preference. So if we look at initial preference, this is who, if they were to choose a health insurance provider before doing any research, who would they choose? And we can see here that VHI are kind of leading in terms of the other providers when it comes to initial preference. Then if we look at visited, so these are the customers who visited the website as part of their research, and we can see that more visited the Laya website than any other website. Now, visiting a website may or may not have an impact on the shortlisting. So I may shortlist a brand based on other reasons as opposed to the website experience. But we do know that the website experience can also impact that shortlisting also. So then if we look at the shortlisting, so this is when they've finished their research, who would they put on a shortlist for further consideration? And we can see that Laya coming out top there with VHI in close second. And then in terms of final preference, so this is out of those that you shortlisted, who would you choose as a final preference? And we can see here that VHI are really leading that way. So their lost opportunity, if you like, between the shortlisting and the final preference is lower than anyone else's. So kind of taking that shortlisting and final preference, we can kind of see in detail here what's going on. So the graph, the Sankey chart on the left, shows what's happening from that shortlisting to final preference, and it gives us an indication of excuse me, those who shortlist that brand, and then of those consumers who they actually go on to choose as a final preference. And this is their lost opportunity. So we can see here, if we look at, say, Aviva, IE, we can see, with the top bar that the amount that they're retaining, but then we can see where they're also going. So we can see with Aviva, a lot going to VHI Healthcare, and we'll have a look at that in a minute also. And then you can see there's others going to Irish Life Health and others going to Laya Healthcare. So we can kind of get an understanding of where the split is and where that lost opportunities, where those customers are going to, or who they're choosing instead of you. And then on the right, we can see the actual scores. So we can see that Aviva and Glow Health are experiencing high lost opportunities. It was no real surprise given the fact that they're exiting from the market and the current experience on their website. We can also see that Irish Life Health are also experiencing very high lost opportunity. So this is people who would have shortlisted them then don't go on to choose them. So this number is always in a negative, but what we're trying to do is reduce this number. So what we're trying to do is reduce the number of people who don't choose you at final preference that did initially choose you at shortlisting. And we can see then that VHI Healthcare have the lowest lost opportunity score. So they are losing the least people when it comes from shortlisting to final preference. So what does that mean in terms of acquisition? So we can kind of see there's been an implosion of that acquisition conversion from Aviva to Irish Health Life in between June of 2015 and January of 2016. So people who the Aviva's exit from the marketplace has seen much of that final preference conversion that would have gone to Aviva now going to VHI. So we can see that conversion really going up quite, over doubling for VHI, and we can see, for Aviva, there's been a massive drop off in terms of that conversion. So if we look at the reasons for choosing your brand as a final preference, after brand relationship, really how products are promoted is key. So we can see that I'm a current customer, they're a reputable brand, I trust this company and I've used them before, really are the top reasons why people choose them in a final preference. So that's really around, relationship, familiarity and brand. But we can see also that plans that are easy to understand and having the best plans and the best offers for their needs are the next two highest. So really looking at the experience of the website really starts to play a prominent role in looking at why they choose your final preference. And so we know that while they might not visit your website, we know that if they do visit your website, this can have a key this can be a key reason for them changing their minds in terms of why they would then choose you at final preference. And so if we think about what the VHI website is doing that others aren't, we can see that again, familiarity, brand and trust are kind of reasons for choosing them. In terms of against the average, VHI are really doing these things better than others in terms of those that chose them as their final preference. But we can also see that the website experience is also there's a difference there between VHI and the average. So the website made it easy to find information about rates and charges. They're leading by 2% against the average. It's easier to understand. There's a 1% difference there. Their plans were easy to understand, a 2% difference there. It made it easy to compare different options, a 3% difference there. And they gave me plenty of options to choose from, an 8% difference there. So in terms of, if we think back to the previous slide, which looked at, what's important in helping me decide a final provider, we know that making things easier to understand and having plans that are relevant to me and match my needs are key indicators, but also VHI we can see are doing better than others in those areas. So then we look at kind of why they wouldn't choose a brand. So we've got all the reasons for why they would. Now, why wouldn't they choose a brand? And we can see the difference here. For VHI, it's around fees and charges and the prior experience with them. So these of the customers who didn't choose VHIs are following. And then if you look at Laya, the biggest differentiators there are around the brand. So I just wanted to try someone else, and the brand I preferred is more a brand for someone like me. And for Irish Health Life, really it's about fees and charges again and the website experience. So if we look at kind of where VHI in terms of customer effort score and judging the experience, we can see that VHI are outperforming in both areas against Laya and Irish Health Life. So if we look at kind of the customer effort scores, we can see that the closer to zero is where we want to go, and we can see that 33% felt that the effort was far less than they expected, and 44% is about what they expected. And then if we look at someone like Laya, we can see that about what I expected is about half, but slightly more is 18%. So a higher percentage there, experiencing more effort than they expected in terms of effort. And then if we look at judging the experience, we can see again, the higher the score, that better. So again, VHI are ahead. And I think the JTE score shows how Irish Health Life are performing poorest in this area. Okay, so if we think about the kind of what we've just looked at in terms of finding plans that suit me, understanding options being the key drivers for final preference, we're now just going to take a deep dive into the match to needs task and the evaluating options area. So just kind of looking here at in terms of this match to needs task, we can see that Irish Health Life see higher abandonment after this task. And the VHI performed the best with non-abandoning. So looking at the match to needs task, an example of this task is to find the cheapest health insurance scheme for singles over the age of 26 that provides a fully private room in all private hospitals, as well as offering physiotherapy cover. So we can see that VHI consumers encountered less problems when finding that task, when matching that to their needs. So we can see that 61% reported not encountering any problems, whereas less for Laya and Irish Life. So the flip side of that is more encountered problems on Laya and Irish Life. So if we look at kind of the reasons where there's differentiators, the biggest differentiators are between those, we can see that it's around hard to compare all the cover when matching my needs, and the difference between the cover was difficult to determine. And I think no one's really got it right in this space yet, so even though VHI definitely perform way better in this, there's upfront, everybody's doing different things at different stages, but no one's really, from a complete journey experience, kind of cracked it yet. We do know of one provider out there where this is being done better. So if you want to know more about that, then I'll give you Hannah's details at the end of this call. But we can see here also there's other things around navigation and finding the information where there's big differences also. So they'd be the lower part of this, the diagram there, the second two to last. So really you can see kind of where experience is really playing a key role here. So VHI, if we look at kind of the initial start of their, when they're trying to match to needs task, they had a 56% success rate in that, and we can see that that the use of the quote tool works like a needs matching wizard. So it determines like kind of one needs and matches a plan to suit these best. So it's very much needs based. I would like cover for myself, speaking the user language, the type of cover that I would like. We can see that there's a difference between the basic cover and then other types of cover that they would offer. And as you go down, you can see that you start off with a lot of plans and then it narrows this down to, in this example, it's one, but it could be 3 plans. And this really is, I suppose, reassuring the customer that I'm inputting what's important to me, I'm choosing that, and then you're showing me what plans match to my needs. So the tools ask for the type of cover, the age, and the requirements and what's important to them. So rather than having to guess what might be included, visitors are kind of told. So I've, as a consumer, I've told them what I want, and their VHI are then telling me which plans include those options that I'm looking for. If we look at Laya, so the cover information upon the results is causing confusion. So the main problems encountered here were the difference between the covers were difficult to determine. So even though we would definitely advocate the use of comparison tables, there's obviously still some confusion here in how they're displayed for consumers, with 24% finding the difference between the covers difficult to determine, and many found it hard to compare all the cover options when matching a product to their needs. And we saw previously that really navigation was a big one here for Laya also. So, and there was just a 10% success rate in that task. So a few things going on there. And then if we look at Irish Life Health, there was a 25% success rate in finding that, but really they make it very difficult to compare plans easily. So they have Irish Health Life start off with the basic cover, the standard, and then they show the different options there. And then if I want to compare, I click on basic. I can compare basic with standard very easily. I can have a limited comparison between basic 1 and basic 2, but I can't actually see a like-for-like comparison at all. I have to drill in individually to see all these plans and try and remember those and flick back and forth between them. So very inefficient. So quite interesting there that they had a higher success rate doing that than Laya, which you could argue have a better approach, but obviously each provider is experiencing different issues at different stages of that journey. So a quarter of participants found it hard to compare all the cover when matching their needs, and 60% reported problems when doing this task, so quite a high percentage there. So if we look at kind of what the most important elements are for health insurance websites, we can see that for the last kind of 2 runs that we've had, information that's easy to understand, information about cost and payment options, detailed and complete information. Again, I think this is about the appropriate level of information at the appropriate times. So that progressive revelation of information, detailed and complete information, a website that's easy to navigate, and easily view features and benefits of insurance options. So these have really, this top 5 has stayed in the top 5 for the last 2 runs. So really it's about making it easy for me to understand, giving me everything that I need when I need it, and kind of being able to compare easily. So Australia, I'm going to look at some examples now from different industries. So the Australian industry lead for matching to needs. So we can see that they have a higher success rate. So AHM have a 62% success rate. BUPA in Australia have a 55% success rate and high evaluation. And then we can see, you know, the scores around has a visual design that is appealing. I understand the information that is presented, displays all the information I expect to see. It's uncluttered, and it looks like a page that will help me compare. So we can see here kind of, you know, the approach that these guys have taken, very much about showing the price, but then being able to easily see the difference between those prices. So AHM have a nice kind of visual representation there in terms of the length, so I can see easily not just that the price is different, but that the options are different, and I can see that through that kind of staggered approach in how they visually represent it. BUPA show me kind of a table view and then the ticks and crosses to show the difference there between those two. They don't really use icons. So BUPA visitors reported no problems due to navigation. So we can see that it's quick, easy navigation to compare. There's a clear link to view side-by-side comparison in the menu. Hospital cover and extra covers are separated to avoid kind of overwhelming the visitors and clearly signposting that there's a level of cover. So you get your basic and then you can add on to these. Then we've got the options. They're clearly labelled to indicate their benefits and the type, as well as naming conventions that assist visitors to understand and remember the options. And then we've got consistent options presented on the table, what's included and what's not included. So Gmhba's quote tool is kind of unique in the industry. So they have very much a needs-based approach as well. So we can see here that the quote results are displayed on the right-hand side, which can be easily modified. There's a vertical progress bar. They've componentized this, so I'm definitely in the quote at this point. I'm not getting distracted by other things around. We've kind of got a back button displayed at every step so I can move forward and back. And then they clearly pull out products that suit you matches the kind of product to customer needs. And then we can see the kind of use of the comparison tables. I can change the options above. The most suitable is based on the needs is highlighted, but I can also see how it compares to others. There's a fact sheet downloadable for easy viewing. So this is really about how much do I need to know at this point to help me make a decision, and then what detailed information do I need to see to really make me comfortable that this is the option I want to choose, and the different ways that they can be displayed. So we've got kind of the legend displayed showing the extent of coverage for each item there as well. And then you've kind of got the final one at the end. So this is totally unique across insurance globally, and it kind of combines the whole consumer journey in one full screen. And then, you know, they achieved a 90% score in terms of tailoring the quote. So very high score there. In terms of gradual disclosure of information, we can see that NIB here kind of have similar, kind of do this just a gradual disclosure, because so it minimizes the amount of information in the page to avoid overwhelming users. So just tell me what I need to know at the point that I need to know it, and then allow me to then go in and delve down further if I want to know more. But I can still get a high level view and be able to compare between the two. And then Westpac, so this is kind of an example of outside the insurance industry. This is a banking industry. Westpac are a bank in Australia. So they have really high effectiveness scores. So we can see that kind of there's individual product details are also supported by this side-by-side comparison table. Allows for kind of tailored comparison based on the choice. And then we can see that the apply a call to action is a sticky header prompting kind of purchase, so it always follows me around. And then at the footer of the table comparison, there's an option to tailor the products being displayed on the screen. So the loan product detail page itself doesn't provide a comparison button, but it is possible to navigate directly to other loans. And then if we look at kind of in terms of the percentage of higher effectiveness and why this is happening, we can see that out of the 85% of people who went to the personal loan page, 35% then click on the compare button, whereas 25 and 20% respectively went to individual loan product pages. So I suppose it's about catering to the different needs. So it's allowing me to view a product details if I want, but also to be able to compare. And obviously the interest there is to compare, as we can see them from the click streams. So for those using the compare tool, they're kind of clicking on the compare on their first visit and then visiting individual loan details pages after they've then clicked on compare. So it's about that different path. So loan first, then compare, or compare first and then look at the detail page. And Westpac are catering to both those different needs. So from personal loans, in our DSE study, which is our digital sales effectiveness study, ANZ achieved an impressive score of 74% for comparing product options. So we can see at the beginning of the table there are links for further information as well as clear application page. Compares important loan information such as rates, fees, payment frequency. So it's not telling me everything, but it's giving me what's important in terms of the summary, and then those collapsible areas of content allow users to kind of select specific features to compare. So it kind of eliminates that clutter. So they're using the concertina to kind of be able to manage that data load that a person might experience when they're trying to compare different products. And then across the UK, energy retailer EDF takes the lead in the category of comparing product options. Again, they use a comparison table. So sitting above the comparison table is a link to get the quote tool to gain insights. And then we can see beside the comparison table is a box detailing why choose EDF, kind of giving customers more reason to pick them, so reinforcing that value proposition. And then the table informs visitors of the purpose of each option section, so why this tariff, and then kind of displays again important information around the estimated price and fees. So all this, although these wouldn't be the exact fees, they do give people an estimate, and it doesn't need to be exact usage, it's just an average estimated. So again, all these things feeding into helping people choose the right product for them and feeling confident about that choice. So just to recap, Aviva and Glow Health's exit has meant that they're experiencing high lost opportunities, with Irish Life failing to capitalise on their inheritance in terms of the data they've gotten from Aviva and Glow Health. VHI are stealing market share and reporting a lower lost opportunity than other health insurance providers, winning at the crucial final preference stage. After brand relationship, how products are promoted is key to being that final preference provider. And information that is easy to understand is the most important web elements for health insurance sites. So VHI are making it easier than other providers for consumers to find and understand their plans, and are outperforming the competition in terms of the customer effort score and judging the experiences. And that task around understanding plans and finding plans for my needs is around the match product, and then VHI customers are reporting less problems when matching a product to their needs than their providers. So in terms of helping people find a product that matches their needs, really the comparison table is the key, I suppose, design feature that we see having the most success in terms of enabling people to do that. That and the Gmhba quote tool, which is quite unique. But again, that features a comparison table. So really it's about the journey to helping them select that product and then enabling them to compare those products easier. So what you need to be doing is making it easy for them to find. So they will search for product comparison. So making the comparison page easy to find is one of the top most important elements. And then making it easy to read without leaving out important information. So again, that progressive disclosure, telling me what I need to know, when I need to know it, but then allowing me to delve deeper if I want to. Having specific details and functions available, so letting consumers know what the product and service can be used for, who's who is eligible and what they will get from that product and services. And then making the table simple and easy to understand. So again, what we're seeing in terms of how people are doing it and who's been successful is that table, but we've also seen that there's a lot of different ways to do it. So just to give you an overview of the fieldwork was completed between January and March of this year, and the main body of sample of the research was completed between the 16th of January and 14th of February. So 14 completed the research in March, and all sample was recruited from research now. So thank you very much for your time today. If you'd like to discuss anything further, or if there's anything of particular interest that you'd like more information on, then please contact Hannah Rose, who is our Senior Commercial Director. Her email is there, and I'll leave that up for the next few seconds. And yeah, just lastly, thank you for your time today.